Hi everyone, to our audience who's watching the live stream. I'm Akanksha Basil. I'm a second year student from Cornell University in New York.
Hello, I'm Sophie Newmark. I'm also second year at Carleton in Northfield, Minnesota.
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about the Kinnaman project. Yes, please. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Kinnaman project was started 3 years ago in an effort to sort of untangle some of the questions and components surrounding today's most pressing environmental issues and create some of this open discussion around these issues with a particular focus on younger environmentalists. So the goal of the project is to provide this collaborative platform for these young environmentalists to work together to brainstorm and delve deeper into like the lattice work of environmental issues through research, discussion, writing, and art. That's kind of a bit of an introduction. We'll go further into what we really do a little bit later. But I just want to talk a little bit about the word Kinnaman. The word Kinnaman was chosen because it roughly translates to a habitat or a place to stand. So it's the feeling that you ought to live and belong in a place. And so our project hinges on the idea that every piece of life belongs here on Earth and that we have a job to take care of it and protect it.
One of the first things we looked at when I joined the blog is the difference between tame problems and wicked problems. So tame problems, as you can see on the left, are pretty basic. They don't have very many components. They can be easily untangled. But on the other hand, wicked problems have a lot of moving parts, and they're all really intertangled together in such a way that if you're try to pull on any one strand, you end up affecting other strands. And so by trying to solve one problem, you can create more problems in other places, and they're a lot harder to just understand. But the Kinnaman Project deals with wicked problems because climate change is very much a wicked problem.
So this is kind of the way that we frame the issues when we look into them. So as you can see on the right, there's this large wicked problem A that's composed of these many different moving parts, as Sophie mentioned earlier, that we represent as discrete points, but they're really not. They're really interconnected. And so each of those points that composes that wicked problem can be a wicked problem in and of itself. So this is just an attempt to explain the fact that any wicked problem that you look at is going to be so interconnected and so tangled and made of its own smaller problems that are very, very hard to conceive of and untangle. This is another representation. Here we have the example of consumer culture affecting large-scale industrial processes, and then, of course, that creating an excess of carbon emissions, leading, of course, to global warming and climate change. But what we have attempted to sort of explain here is the fact that there are so many levels on each, so many factors on each level that are contributing to any given factor on another level and on the same level as well, which is a little bit confusing. Explain it in a bit of a confusing way. But the point is that there are so many interconnected factors that are going to explain any problem on any level of a larger wicked problem. So the way that we are looking at untangling these kinds of issues is through a sub-initiative of the Kinnaman Project called the Paradigm Initiative, where we try to essentially make connections between different aspects of an issue to create new knowledge about that issue. So making connections where there really weren't before, or connections that aren't talked about as much. So that's what we do with that.
The Nuthatch Journal is the other main sub-project within the Kinnaman Project. And the Nuthatch Journal is really focused on bringing in like art and creative work and bringing in one-time contributions so people can share their perspective and talk about talk about things that they're already doing in other places and things that they already care about without having to commit to consistent meetings or like long-term projects. And so this way we can bring in more voices and try to appeal to more people. And the kind of heart of the Kinnivan project, at least in our meetings and for the Paradigm Initiative, is whiteboarding. So if you go on to the next slide, you can see an example of one of our earlier whiteboards when we were working on a real little physical whiteboard, and we would have it propped up, and we would all contribute ideas, and then Akanksha would write them down. And so this one in particular, we have, we're talking about value and communication, and those were kind of the main large points where we started. And then as you can see, as we went into examples and other questions, we started drawing all these different lines and connecting to new topics. And that is how the Kinnivan Project wants to create knowledge, and bring things to the surface that might not otherwise be seen. And on the next slide, we have an example of one of our more recent whiteboards. We've moved on to using a software online, so we can all add to it at once, and then we can get things that are much bigger. We have a lot more lines on here. This one in particular was about like the United States holiday season and consumerism, and like we got into really interesting philosophical discussions about need and want. So yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our first question, which is, what do you think are the main challenges in relation to the environment among young people today?
And young people are rallying around climate issues and engaging with them through different forms of activism. But the really big challenge in that is that the time and emotional space economy can work against us. Young people, when we're trying to pursue activism that creates lasting, robust change. Young people are trying to get through the day-to-day of school, figuring out their lives, and don't necessarily have the time and energy to think about and engage with other goals. And this is true for people who are activists, and for an organization like us, which we try to reach out to people who don't necessarily consider themselves activists, and that problem can be even stronger there. And one of the reasons this problem is so important is that large scale environmental issues are difficult and stressful to think about, and because they're just so big, and it can seem hard to make a difference in them. And so it takes a significant emotional toll on people who are trying to consider these issues every day. Can be hard to be hopeful, and climate anxiety blocks many people from feeling like they can achieve results from their actions.
So, going off of that, even, actually, we're still on the other slide.
Yeah, do this or before?
Before, please.
Yeah, sure.
The challenges slide.
Yeah, on the slide.
Oh,
yeah, thank you. Okay, so anyway, so for those who can break the barriers of the time investment that it would take to think about such an issue, we found that there is really a lot of confusion about how to take action in a way that has this meaningful impact. So first is kind of like the idea of scales. In our experience, a lot of confusion can emerge around whether to work towards pro-environmental goals on a larger or smaller scale. For instance, are personal lifestyle changes focused on working towards sustainability goals effective? And should young activists prioritize local action or target larger centers of power? So there's this idea that we're working at different scales and different levels of power, and it's not always clear which level of power to target or look at. In addition to scale issues, there's a lot of uncertainty around what the most effective methods are to create sustainable change. and because there are different kinds of activism. So, of course, this is also dependent on the particular proclivities of people interested in making a difference. So, for example, we ask, how can a young person make a positive contribution if they don't want to follow the trajectory of traditional political activism? And how can a young person leverage their talents and interests to contribute to a better understanding of environmental issues? And how does a young person find a community of people to work with? So the confusion about scales and methods is a result of climate change and, of course, these other environmental issues being this massive wicked problem, as we talked about. With so many complex factors, it's really hard to know where to begin and how to even try to make an impact. And it's not clear how to turn the knowledge of the problem or even knowledge of any possible solutions into action. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the next question, what are the best solutions you've found to develop your community? In our case, the question that we really ask ourselves in terms of this is how can the perspectives and capabilities of a group and the individual members of that group be leveraged to better understand environmental issues through multiple perspectives? So our initiative is always this work in progress, right? So we need it to be fungible enough to shift when it's needed and adapt to the talents and the abilities of people who are involved. We've attempted to set up a structure in which people involved in the initiative contribute in the ways that work best for them and are the most manageable, especially because a lot of us are busy college students. Our goal is creating a dialogue and connection between people who are interested in contributing their perspectives and understanding others' perspectives towards this larger conversation around environmental issues.
We have some more on solutions. One of the best tactics we have so far is recruiting people we already know and using their specific talents and interests to contribute to the discussion so we can work with what people are already doing and what they already care about, and that lowers the time and energy barrier to getting involved. So at Carleton specifically, I've been trying to do this by establishing a sort of chapter of the Kinnivan Project as a college club. And through that, we're also hoping to make a system and organization that will be sustainable after we graduate. And beyond networking with people we know, a major way that people in our generation communicate with each other is through social media. So we try to do that too. We believe that it's important to maintain a digital footprint and try to reach people who tend to share interest in environmentalism. So overall, at the Kinnivan Project, we try to be accessible to as many people as possible. We do this through having multiple ways to get involved, like the Nuthatch Journal. There are options for low stakes contributions. And the Carleton chapter also wants to experiment with more relaxed things like open whiteboarding sessions where people can come talk and eat free food and share their ideas. And we hope that this will be more approachable for busy college students.
So looking to the future, right now we're working on assembling project teams of 2 or 3 people in our initiative with the goal of identifying, researching, and formulating some strategies to address current environmental policy challenges on any scale. And that's something we're hoping to talk about a little bit more later among the group. We're hoping that this project will maintain the flexibility that we try to strive for while also adding some accountability and intergroup motivation. Yes, okay. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate having the opportunity to speak at this conference and talk a little bit about what we do. We're always looking for new members, of course. We're a very, very small team right now, and we're hoping to grow and establish more chapters elsewhere. So we really would love it if people who are listening, who know anyone who might be interested in joining us, to contact us here at this kinnivan.project at gmail.com. And we have our website and Instagram as well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Akanksha, Sophie. I really appreciate that you're coming and you have this beautiful talk. So I have one suggestion and one question. And please, our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to ask our speakers. It's an open discussion, open microphone, and I think they will be happy to to answer. Yeah, and my suggestion, first of all, is something like no. First of all, one question. The question is how to become your member. Should the people who are interested in to write to your email or make a special proposal or yeah.
So it's very, very open. There's no application process or anything. We just love it if people could contact us at that email. And we try to set up a meeting with whoever is interested and kind of like, I don't know, get to know them a little bit more and talk about some of their interests, but it's in no way like an interview or an application. We're just hoping to get more people involved, whoever is interested.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, thank you for answering. And one suggestion is I think the strong side, the strong feature, the straight of the project. The Kinefin, thank you for pronunciation, and I learned how to pronounce. Thank you very much. So the Kinefin project is flexibility to communicate, to collaborate with other educational institutions or institutes. I mean, yeah, and institutions in social way and institutes in corporate way. Yeah, and I think maybe if you would like to make it global, it will be really awesome, because right now I see how I think it's yours straight really how easily you contact to each other. Sophie from Carleton, you are based in New York, and you communicate in a very easy way. And I like your approach. I think the future of the project is in it as well. But it's just a suggestion. Yeah. Thank you for a great discussion. And yes, if you will have any questions, please feel free to write to the email to the team of Kinefin project as well. And seems like we are on the way to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Yes, and please, we love getting mail. Please email us if you're interested, or if you know anyone who might be interested. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.